Hello YouTube. Skyrim is a game that we've all played to death, but what many people don't know is that with the official Skyrim board game, some completely new canon stories set in our favorite province got released. Now today we're talking about the second main story of the board game, set right during our playtime of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim the video game. Now, I heavily recommend watching my video on the first story, set 25 years before the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim the video game, first, because this story is a direct sequel. A link to my video on that story is in the description, so that having been said, let's get right into the story. So, our story begins about a month before the events of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim the video game. At that time, the group of ex-Blade recruits that we followed in the first story have split up and now lead normal, comfortable lives. They have broken with their pasts and they live as unassuming professions, hoping that the Thalmor would simply give up their search as they blended into Skyrim's native population. However, one day they are forced to once again wipe off the dust of their old weapons and hit the road again, as each of them get visited by an old friend. In my case, this old friend was Moiva Karnai, whom we spared at the end of the first campaign, but if you killed Moiva Karnai at the end of the first campaign, you will be visited by Delphine. Either way, your old contact comes to visit you to let you know that somehow, someone has found some old Blades records and is trying to track you down and expose you to the world. The Blades obviously can't let that happen, but as they head out to investigate, they're all arrested by the guards of their local Jarls. Each Jarl has heard disturbing rumors about them, for example that they are a necromancer, they are skooma smugglers or a common robber. After convincing the Jarl that you're innocent and on his side, you then start to investigate who is spreading these rumors about you. Now, there are two ways to go about this for every player. You either try to convince the Jarl to spill the beans on who's told them these lies about you, or you can go to any of Skyrim's guilds to see if they can help, as each player, depending on their backstory, has contacts with the local guild. For example, the blacksmiths from Whiterun have contacts with the companions, as they sometimes sell them weapons. Now, the information that you get by investigating both sides are that two Dunmer or Dark Elf women, Tiresi Drilo and Taven Rathis, are going around Skyrim trying to cause dissent in whichever way they can. They use old records to try and find old blades to stir up more Thalmor activity in the province. They talk to pro-independence Jarls by bad-mouthing the pro-Imperial Jarls, and they talk to the pro-Imperial Jarls by bad-mouthing the pro-independence Jarls. And they are also talking to Skyrim's poor and their beggars, setting them against those in power by saying that the High King, the Jarls, the merchants, everyone with power, they're all at fault for the fact that they are beggars and that they can't make ends meet. So basically they're trying to cause chaos wherever they go. You can then investigate these two Dunmer further, and upon closer examination you find where they live. In Tiresi Drilo's house you can find all sorts of documents detailing locations with a map of Skyrim of where military forces are located and in which places people might be pushed to further unrest, suggesting that, like I said, their goal is to cause as much unrest, dissent and chaos as possible. In Taven Rathis' house you find a list of co-conspirators and even a plot to kill the High King of Skyrim in order to plunge the province into chaos. So obviously once you learn that, you go and warn the High King Torrik, but as you enter the Blue Palace to warn the king, you are stopped by two Dunmer assassins in dark Daedric cultist robes. They fight you and stall you so that you won't be able to reach the High King. But you manage to fight them off, and you think you've been able to save the king. However, just before you can talk to the king about the plot you saved him from, Ulfric shows up, duels Torrig, and the High King still dies. So that means that despite their defeat, the cultist assassins still accomplish their goals. The Skyrim Civil War then starts, and as the province descends into chaos, the players need to investigate the Dunmer cultist assassins further who attempted to kill the king and sow discord in the province. As you investigate the leads that you have, for which there are multiple paths of investigation, you find out that the assassins that ambushed you in the Blue Palace are from a cult to the Daedric Prince of Cruelty, Boethiah. The cult is made up of Dunmer or Dark Elves who seem to think that now that the tribunal is gone, the Daedric Prince Boethiah may be able to undo Azura's curse, which turned the gold-skinned Chimer Elves into the Dark Elves with their ashen skin and red eyes, which was bestowed upon the Dunmer because the tribunal ignored the Daedric Prince Azura's commands. See my video on that topic for more information, as this was a criminally short explanation. Anyway, in their communication the cult often reflects on ancient Chimera history and the original journey of Valeth, the prophet who was a champion of Boethiah and led the Chimera people away from their Altmer cousins to Morrowind, where they would eventually become the Chimera, and then the Dark Elves when they were cursed. So it seems that the cult genuinely believes that Boethiah may be able to undo the curse and turn the Dunmer back into the gold-skinned Chimera. In order to compel Boethiah into doing this, they want to make sure that as many people in Skyrim die as possible in order to please the Daedric Prince of Cruelty. You find out that they do this not only by fostering deceit, but also by discreetly leaving artifacts of Boethiah in small communities around Skyrim, which make people turn on each other and kill each other. They kidnap soldier patrols from both sides of the Civil War, addling with their minds and turning them on each other and their comrades. Finally, you find out that they are led by a Dunmer named Overon Salith, who is apparently attempting to open a portal to Boethiah's realm somewhere in a cave in the throat of the world. But that mountain is huge. Trying to find a single cave somewhere in that mountain is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So you're gonna need more clues, and you can either decide to try and pursue Taven Rathis from earlier, who you've located in Whiterun, and who may be privy to the information that you need, and then interrogate her. Or you can attempt to investigate the cult's old headquarters somewhere deep under Windhelm, or you can try to see if the College of Winterhold can see if they can find the location where a portal to Oblivion is attempted to be conjured up. No matter which route you take, now in my opinion the Taven Rathis ambush in Whiterun is the coolest, as you're in the middle of the siege of Whiterun and you need to pass several skill checks to see if you can avoid a lot of the chaos that's, you know, in a city under siege. So I can recommend that path, but no matter which path that you take, you are provided a location of Overon Salith and his portal. So you rush to the throat of the world, hoping that you will be in time to stop him from entering the portal and plead to Boethiah. You then enter the cave and you need to fight off a bunch of cultists. Depending on how many allies you have gathered during the story and with how many players you are, this fight can either be extremely hard or a bit of a walk in the park if you are with 4 endgame level players and all have followers. So yeah, depending on that, but it is one of the more challenging fights in the game, no doubt. And when you manage to defeat all the cultists and Overon Salith, the story ends with a bit of an anticlimax. As Overon Salith flees the fight and runs into the portal, you can then see the portal to Boethiah's realm closing behind him. Now, assuming that he may one day return to cause even more havoc to please the Daedric Prince, you choose to jump in after him and pursue him. And this is simply where the story ends. A bit of a cliffhanger. There's no closure on whether or not you manage to defeat him permanently in Boethiah's realm or whether you will ever return. All in all, a bit of a disappointing end to quite a good story. Just like with the first story, I personally really appreciated the effort that they put into some of the lore details in this and how they went with an original story about some Dunmer trying to turn back Azura's curse instead of making some side story about the dragons. While there are roaming dragons during this story and you hear about the Dragonborn being there and doing their thing, you have very little to do with them as you try to foil the plans of Boethiah's cult, and I really appreciate that. That being said, this story can be considered canon. In the description of this video there's the interview I did with Juan Echenique, the lead writer of the game, who described how Bethesda Game Studios' own writers looked over the story and suggested additions and changes and then greenlit the whole thing. I really appreciate that due diligence and that they actually took effort to get the lore stuff right and, you know, make this game canon, so that's why I really enjoy playing through the stories. That being said, big thank you to Bethesda and Modiphius for providing the game to me so that I could cover the lore. If you want to play it yourself, either solo or with friends, both is possible and pretty fun. A link to Modiphius' store page is in the description of this video. I can really recommend playing the game, and yeah, thanks to them for me being able to cover the lore of this video for the people who don't want to play it. So yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this video, and if you did, and you learned something new about the Elder Scrolls lore today, then consider subscribing to the channel and returning for the next lore video probably next week. Now, all that remains for me to be done is to thank my top Patreon supporters, Mr. Bernardo Binda, Gabriel Binda, Polar Rasputin, Belly Peritus, Athena Hyotis, Dragonborn of Nerevar, Volcure of Argonia, King Chris, Bolds, Scribe of the Scrolls, Doji, Fenrir, Sword of Bushido, Rakai, and Mr. Christmas. It's thanks to these people and all the others on screen that this channel stays alive, and for that I'm very grateful. That said, I hope to see all of you in the next Elder Scrolls lore video. Bye bye.